The last dollar. Story description: a touching tale about Maya, a struggling single mother who makes an extraordinary sacrifice that sets off a chain reaction of kindness, proving that even the smallest acts of compassion can change lives forever. Hashtags: #kindness matters, #pay it forward, #humanity, #hope, #compassion, #single mom, #community, #faith, #generosity, #heartwarming, #inspirational story, #power of giving, #love wins, #small acts big impact, #American dream. Keywords: kindness, selflessness, community, sacrifice, hope, humanity, generosity, compassion, single mother, struggling families, pay it forward, faith, resilience, unexpected kindness, chain reaction of good. The fluorescent lights of the downtown clinic flickered overhead as Maya clutched her daughter's fevered hand, her own trembling with more than just exhaustion. Sophia's breathing was shallow, her tiny chest rising and falling in a rhythm that made Maya's heart clench with terror. The 7-year-old had been sick for 3 days, and Maya knew she couldn't wait any longer. Even though the $20 bill crumpled in her pocket represented their last hope for groceries this week. Mrs. Rodriguez, the nurse's voice cut through the stare like a blade. The doctor will see Sophia now, but we'll need to discuss payment arrangements first. Maya's stomach twisted. She'd been dreading this moment, knowing that the clinic's sliding scale fee would still stretch beyond her means. As a night shift janitor at the local office building, she barely scrapped together enough for rent and utilities. The recent cut in her hours had left them surviving on peanut butter sandwiches and whatever she could find marked down at the grocery store. Of course, Maya whispered, following the nurse down the narrow hallway, Sophia's small hand still clasped in hers. Her daughter's trust in her felt like both a blessing and a burden. How could she explain that Mommy might not have enough money to make her feel better? Dr. Patterson, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, examined Sophia with gentle hands and a warm smile. "It's pneumonia," she said quietly to Maya afterward. "We can treat it with antibiotics, but she needs to start them immediately. I'm also concerned about her nutrition. When was the last time she had a proper meal?" Maya's cheeks burned with shame. "We've been going through a rough patch. I'm working as much as I can, but no judgment here," Dr. Patterson said softly. "I've seen too many families struggling to put food on the table. Let me write you a prescription, and I want you to take this." She pressed a folded piece of paper into Maya's hand along with the prescription. "There's a food pantry address on there. Promise me you'll go." At the front desk, Maya's worst fears materialized. Even with the sliding scale discount, the consultation fee was $45. She stared at her $20 bill, then at Sophia's pale face, feeling the weight of impossible choices crushing her chest. I only have $20, she admitted, her voice barely audible. "Could I possibly pay the rest next week?" "I get paid on Friday." The receptionist, a woman named Janet with kind eyes and graying hair, looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, honey, but our policy requires payment today. I wish I could help, but, please." The word escaped Maya's lips like a prayer. "She's so sick." "I'll bring the money, I promise. I'll work extra shifts, I'll do anything." From behind her in the small waiting room, Maya heard the soft squeak of a wheelchair. She turned to see an elderly man, his weathered hands gripping the armrests as he maneuvered himself closer to the desk. His clothes were worn but clean, and his eyes held a lifetime of stories. "Excuse me," he said, his voice gravelly but warm. "I couldn't help but overhear. Would it be all right if I covered the difference?" Maya's eyes widened. "Oh, no, sir, I couldn't possibly." "Henry Walsh," the old man said, extending his hand. "And yes, you can. I've been where you are, young lady. Different circumstances, maybe, but I know what it's like to choose between medicine and meals." He pulled out a worn leather wallet. "My late wife always said kindness is never wasted, even when it seems impossible to afford." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. "I don't know how to thank you." "I'll pay you back, I swear." Henry waved dismissively. "The only payment I want is for you to help someone else when you can. That's how these things work. We take care of each other." As they left the clinic, Sophia's medication tucked safely in Maya's purse, she couldn't stop thinking about Henry's words. That evening, As she gave her daughter the first dose of antibiotics and watched color slowly return to her cheeks, Maya made a silent vow. 3 weeks later, Sophia had fully recovered, and Maya had managed to pick up extra cleaning contracts that brought in desperately needed income. She was standing in line at the grocery store, actually able to buy fresh vegetables for the first time in months, when she noticed the young woman ahead of her. The woman was probably in her early 20s, with a baby on her hip and a cart full of generic diapers and formula. Maya watched as the cashier rang up the total, $38.62. The young woman counted out $35 in crumpled bills, then searched frantically through her purse. "I'm sorry," she said, voice cracking. "I thought I had more." "Can you take off the formula?" The baby began to fuss, and Maya could see the desperation in the young mother's eyes, as the same desperation she'd felt in that clinic just weeks ago. Without hesitation, Maya stepped forward. "I've got the rest," she said, handing $4 to the cashier. The young woman, Sarah, she learned, broke down in tears right there in the checkout lane. "I can't believe." "Why would you?" "Because someone helped me when I needed it most," Maya said simply. "That's how these things work." Sarah clutched Maya's hand. "How can I ever repay you?" "Help someone else when you can," Maya replied, echoing Henry's words. That small act in the grocery store became the beginning of something neither Maya nor Sarah could have anticipated. Sarah, it turned out, was a nursing student who had been struggling to afford her final semester. Inspired by Maya's kindness, she started a small support group for single mothers in their neighborhood. They shared resources, babysitting duties, and most importantly, hope. Word of their group spread through social media, and soon local businesses began donating supplies. A restaurant owner started providing free meals once a week. A daycare offered sliding scale childcare. The ripple effects of one $25 clinic payment and a $4 grocery store gesture had created something beautiful. 6 months after that fateful day at the clinic, Maya received an unexpected phone call. It was Henry Walsh. "I heard about what you've been doing," he said, his voice warm with pride. "My granddaughter saw your group mentioned on Facebook. She's a reporter for the local newspaper, and she'd like to write a story about your community support network." "Mr. Walsh, I don't need recognition," Maya protested. "We're just helping each other." "That's exactly why the story needs to be told," Henry replied. "People need to remember that ordinary folks doing extraordinary things, that's what makes the world turn." The newspaper article, titled "A Kindness Chain: How One Act of Generosity Transformed a Community," ran on a Sunday morning in October. Maya's phone didn't stop ringing. Donations poured in from readers who wanted to support their group. Other neighborhoods started similar programs. A local philanthropist was so moved by the story that she established a fund to help families with medical expenses. But the moment that meant the most to Maya came on a quiet Tuesday evening. She was walking home from work when she saw Henry sitting on a bench outside the community center where their support group now met weekly. He looked frail, thinner than she remembered, but his smile was as bright as ever. "Mr. Walsh," she said, sitting beside him. "What are you doing out here so late?" "Waiting for you," he said simply. "I wanted to tell you something. I've been sick, pretty sick, actually. The doctors say I don't have much time left." Maya's heart clenched. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry," Henry said, patting her hand with his paper-thin one. "I'm not. You see, when I helped you that day at the clinic, I was in a dark place. I'd lost my Eleanor 6 months before, and I felt like there was no point to anything anymore but helping you, seeing what it started. It reminded me that we're all connected. Every act of kindness creates more kindness. It never ends." Tears flowed freely down Maya's cheeks. "You saved us, Mr. Walsh. You saved Sophia." "No," Henry said softly. "You saved yourselves. I just gave you a little push. And look what you did with it. You created a family for dozens of people who needed one. You turned one small act into something that will outlive all of us." Henry passed away peacefully 2 weeks later, surrounded by friends from the community that Maya's kindness had helped create. At his funeral, the church was packed with people whose lives had been touched by the chain reaction he had started with a simple gesture at a medical clinic. Today, Maya serves as director of the Henry Walsh Community Support Center, a non-profit that has helped hundreds of families navigate difficult times. Sophia, now a healthy teenager, volunteers there after school, understanding instinctively that she's part of something larger than herself. In Maya's office hangs a framed copy of that first newspaper article, and beside it, a simple handwritten note that Henry had left for her: kindness is the currency that never loses value. Spend it freely, and watch how rich the world becomes. Every morning when Maya arrives at work, she reads those words and remembers that sometimes the most powerful force in the world can fit in your pocket if you're brave enough to let it out.